I'm at here.
Are you stuck right there?
Same place.
That's where I'm saying, okay.
Is it not working?
Yeah, now that I'm finally there, it's not.
What about you, Mark? I don't know unless it's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
About one that was able to get to the website, meeting details, and two that can't.
Okay, go back to the guest Wi-Fi. I think that was probably stronger than the TDC boardroom.
She said to try the guest Wi-Fi if.
That's what I'm on.
Is that what
Yeah, I think that one's probably,
What
that
about
might
you,
be
Mark?
stronger.
That wasn't
I think boardroom is,
Yeah, mine connected automatically earlier too. Try the guest Wi-Fi and see if that'll help you. You want me to see if I can figure out how to get in there, Brad?
I'm on guess.
Just keep hearing me.
You'll all be ready back.
so, where am I?
Yeah, we got it.
We have to do that.
We should drive up to Fur. It's not bad.
That should have all the links
It's
to
all.
documents.
Fort Washington is the That's a color.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too.
Did you go to the guest Wi-Fi? Mark and Brad. Donna, you're in. And you're in.
But it is that question.
Yeah, okay, so I went from the boardroom to
Yes.
the guest.
Refresh the page and see if it'll.
Kind of, sort of, a little bit.
Everybody else wants to do the county website.
Yes, is that,
That's not like.
okay.
Guest Wi-Fi. I think it's boardroom ones that are active,
Could be downloaded. Yeah, the agenda's on, oh, there we go. Each of those items, that's okay, that's pretty close to what it looks like. So, all right, so I don't know.
I should have prepared a paper copy. Well, Mac does have a paper copy if you guys need to look at it. If you can't get into the computer.
Old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blind. I'll pass it as needed. Thank you.
Another one.
We can share.
Are you, did you get through the regular website? Because I'm at this one, and it's still ignoring this one. Let's go back to this.
Is it working with that, David?
a really long time
Okay.
for the actual agenda to come up and it made me save it first.
All right, I'll try one more time and then. It looks different this time. It's not immediately telling me now. So, all right, I guess we might as well get started on what that's going to come up.
Sure.
Okay. I guess I'm not down, so I hereby call the November 3rd meeting of the Design Review Board to order. And the first item on the agenda is the approval or consideration of the August 4th, 2016 minutes, which I believe are previously circulated. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion and a second. That motion is Lee Moore. I'm sorry, actually.
Donna.
Donna, yes. Do we have any comments, modifications? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is the withdrawal of the yellow board fence. So staff, do we have a presentation on this item?
Yes, this was submitted based on a code case. They have resolved the code case, so they withdraw the application to build the fence. That's why we're requesting to remove the item.
Okay, so no action is necessary, Mr.
Jonathan, okay, we're going.
Great, thank you very much. The next item is the Sacred Heart Children's Hospital sign deviation, and it's being reviewed by Tim Brown.
Good evening, Tim Brown with Walton County Planning Development. They have modified this request. It is a deviation, but all they're asking for now is to mount the sign on the roof of the building, because the main issue is the facade is so small. The way that building is made, the facade where the sign has to go is really small. They are going to go ahead and do the 54 square feet. They're not going to do the monument sign. They're just asking for the deviation to allow the sign to be placed on, there's 2 or 3 roofs the way this building is built, so on one of those roofs. But the code doesn't allow that, but it's really their only alternative unless they're going to have a tremendously small sign on that building. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Same. The board members have questions?
I do. In this picture, it looks to me like it's been moved from a previous position that they had it on. It seems like they had it a little higher before, a little bit different. Has it changed?
I don't believe so. I mean, initially they were showing it in the facade area there to try to kind of show how tiny it would be there. But no, I believe that is the, well, at one point too, they showed it hanging down from the edge there, which would be allowed because it's not above the roof line. But it's so low, if they do it that way, it's hard to see it from 98. So maybe that's the one you saw where it was hanging from there. So they're going to put it right there on top of the roof, which, I mean, there's not much alternative. The code just doesn't allow that specifically.
What is your recommendation?
Personally, I think it should be approved because there's really not much alternative the way that building is built. It's just the peculiarity of that building. It doesn't set way off of 98, but it does sit back off of 98, so that really limits some of their options as well.
Is the second sign a separate issue, the one that's going to be on 98?
They withdrew that. They're not asking for that.
Is this sign to scale?
I don't believe so. There's no scale on it, so I don't believe it is.
Well, it's 2 scale.
Okay.
May I show you all the rendering, make sure you're looking at the correct one? It's a word.
Yeah.
If you cut the podium and announce yourself.
Ken Sutton with the Vintage Art sign.
Okay, I guess we should, can we retain this and turn this into our secretary for the...
Of course.
Yes, we have documents circulated. Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicant? Do we have any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, see none. I guess at this point we're ready for a motion.
Make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion? Proper motion. We have a second? Okay. Tom made the motion, Donna seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next item up is the Sandestin Water Tower color deviation. This one's being presented by Tim Brown as well.
Yes, this is a deviation. They want to repaint the tower. I guess it hasn't been painted in a number of years. So as you can see from the attachments, and unfortunately they didn't copy that grade, but they show what it would look like with the approved colors and what it would look like with the proposed colors. it's pretty clear, it would look a lot better with the proposed. The approved colors makes it look washed out. I mean, in my opinion, it makes it look like it's been faded by the sun. So, I mean, that's where we're at. They're asking to, I mean, you can see there is a blue and a yellow color that falls under the approved colors, but they're very light, and they're wanting a little darker blue and a darker yellow for the deviation. And it's up to the board, but I think the proposed colors look much nicer than what would be allowed under the code. Which is South Walton. Also, it's not the Sandestin, they're not the applicant at South Walton Utility. They're the ones that operate the water tower, South Walton Utilities. So we have Sandestin Water Tower, but it's actually South Walton Utilities Water Tower.
Is that part of what we're approving, or?
No, it's just a clarification that Sandestin doesn't own and operate it, South Walton Utilities does, so they're the actual applicant.
It's pretty bold to me.
I'm sorry?
It's pretty bold to me.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of wonder if there's not a middle ground in there that.
Well, how close are these colors to their logo colors?
You'd have to ask the applicant, I don't know.
If that is the applicant present?
Representing South Walton. I'm Kitty Whitney. I'm a Sandestin homeowner. I'm also a Sandestin Owners Association board member, and I run real estate at Sandestin, so a couple of roles there. I'll give you a little quick history. I came here for a year. I've been living here 16 years, but I've come here for years and remember when the water tower used to say Sandestin. At some point in time, the TDC wanted to market the South Walton, the Visit South Walton brand, went to South Walton, retained the rights to paint it, if you will, and there's a lease between the TDC and South Walton. More recently, a lot of the homeowners in the area, and I just happen to be in a position where I run into them a lot, ask, why is it brown? We can't read it. It says Visit South Walton. Why does it say Sandestin like it used to? I just think I drive home to Thibodaux, Louisiana, and I know I'm there when I see the Thibodaux sign, right? So I agree with that concept, and went to the TDC and said, don't you still use the 16 community names as relevantly as you do or readily as you do the South Walton brand? And they said, absolutely. We agree. We'd love to see it Sandestin again. Get with South Walton, take it from here. So South Walton did indeed agree and want to assign the TDC to remove that logo, if you will, and for the Sandestin Resort and owners to come in. So I went to the Sandestin Resort first, since that's my employer. Now, of course, they would like it to say Sandestin.com or Sandestin Golf and Beach Resort. So I went to the owners. Now, I'm a homeowner long before I worked there. So I went to the owners. And if you can imagine, I don't know how many of you infiltrate anything to do with Sandestin, but to get the Sandestin Owners Association and the Sandestin Investment Declarant to agree, I think we should paint the tower gold. But they finally agreed and said, absolutely, Kitty, we don't need the branding, we don't need all the extra stuff. We want to come to the table and help pay. Sandestin comes to the table and help pay. So the owners and the declarant have agreed. It just feels like home. You drive up and you go, oh, there's the Sandestin, this is where I got to turn in. So we agree with that. I went up and down the street because I'm one that usually doesn't notice the brightness. I just don't. And I drove up and down the street and took pictures of Wells Fargo's bright red sign, Camping on the Golf, the bright blue sign, the First Florida bright green sign. So there are a variety of them right below, up and down. And then you kind of look up and see this tan, pale, brown water tower. So South Walton loves it, Sandestin owners love it, Sandestin would like to have it. We wanted to take off the specific branding. The color scheme, if we drop it down a notch to get closer to the gradient, brings it more to a teal looking color when it's in that bright light. And all we could do is paint samples and hold them up out there in an attempt to get where we needed to be. We did send our notices out. I had one person call and say, please paint it. Nobody else contacted us. So it's as close to the brand colors to not turn a bright, bright blue or a bright, bright green. It's not exactly the same brand color, but we wanted to leave all the branding, taglines, and other information off and do as the homeowners asked and welcome them home to Sandestin.
Any other questions?
You said that the colors, that if you went down a color, a shade, that it would be more of a turquoise.
It turns turquoise. The one shade lighter than that is officially on that scale. I've downloaded the book that has the colors in it and then just graphically put it on there. It looked okay, so we went ahead and had a sample of the paint made, painted it on and just held it up, and it gives it a more of a peacock turquoise color as opposed to the blue color. The awnings on, in fact, the Sacred Heart building right below in the market shops are very similar blue, and that was the other thing. Kind of have a picture pointing this way of that blue and this way of that blue, and it feels like they all blend and match. Now, my husband would say, don't let me decorate, but they felt okay. Anything else?
I have a question, probably more for staff. Is this blue pretty close to the newer trim or accent colors that we approved recently to add to the?
Well, that's what she's showing as the approved color, but it faded when we made copies. You know, we made copies for everyone, so it's not completely representative of the book because it faded, but it's a shade or two lighter than what they're proposing. But it is the new book, the new colors that were approved.
Would you like me to hand you the, I think these are a little bit more, not a copy, it's printed
Yeah,
off
those are
direct.
probably a little better than what we have.
I might have the whole stack of every color, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm embarrassed. Okay, so there's your, yeah, you know, I can almost like that. It's that being so faded looking. We have a lot of faded stuff. Trying to think about that way. So thank you.
So these are more true to life than what we have.
I didn't see your copy. I did deliver your copies. I can't remember if they.
Or we're just looking at it online. Tim, would you say that's more true to the color than what we have in our online stuff?
Yes.
Because what we have in our online is lighter.
Yes, because that's a copy.
Yeah.
She
So that's more accurate.
PDF what we had, so yeah, that's more reminiscent of, because we copied that, and of course when you copied it, that's what the copy is what you have online.
The good news is the paint's fade proof. That was the other concern, right? Is to get a color there and have it drawn.
Definitely.
Search for it.
I also have a picture of the tower now. If that would be helpful.
No, that much.
Well, I guess I'm
Not very effective.
seeing some jumps, I mean,
That's the
reference to the
tower.
Wells Fargo sign
It's
is,
tan and the.
they want to comply with the they're supposed to do that.
Everything else is down. And then, of course, the
It's a
office is
water
there.
tower.
Looks like they got that color.
There's a good comparison sign next to it, actually.
Yeah.
This is the blue billboard that's closest. Just a little bit more.
I think that one predates the,
And it's faded. Yes, indeed.
but if you wanted to match the size of it, I guess you could. I'll go ahead and express, I think, what maybe is a different way of saying what some of these comments are. That this is a water tower, and I guess it's being treated as a billboard of sorts. Your comments about the other signs, we have the ability to allow a business that's putting a sign on their building to use their logo or brand colors, but they are restricted by the size of the signage. So I agree with you. I don't personally find Wells Fargo's colors to be particularly attractive, but that's their corporate colors, and they conform with the size requirement. And I certainly understand the spirit of a sign that welcomes folks home, but our responsibility is to to the larger community. And, you know, when I'm driving home, I'm not home when I go past Sandestin. And frankly, the fact that the water tower isn't doesn't have this great big sign on it, you know, doesn't affect me the way it does the folks that live in Sandestin. If my neighborhood said, we want to put a sign up that's this large, so that we have something to welcome us home, I'm pretty confident that the answer would be no. So I guess, you know, it's whatever the will of the board is. I think there, you know, the fact that this has had signs on it before makes it a somewhat unique circumstance. I personally don't think it's a good idea for us to require you to paint something that automatically looks faded and looks like it was a mistake.
Nope.
So it's a pretty interesting question.
Do we have any dimensions on what this finished product will be, how the letters are?
The
How long
current-
the type is?
The current formation on the tower says very tiny Sandestin welcomes you to, and then large visit South Walton, and then small find your perfect beach. This graphic is embedded within the limits of that one currently. It doesn't exceed it. So if you take the picture of the tower now, where the words are, this one is within those limits.
But how tall is that? What are the limits? How tall is it, how long is it?
I can't answer that. I'm happy to attempt to get that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess that the water tower is
I had to
well in
ask.
excess of 100 feet tall to the top of it, probably 120 some odd feet to the top of it, and just sort of using proportions, I'd have to imagine the word Sandestin has probably got to be approaching 20 feet long.
Kenny, are you saying that it covers from the top of where this old one starts talking and then, or the first words are? Are you talking about up here? It's here. It falls under here and above here. So within the span. My personal opinion is it looks like big old golf balls sitting on a stick. Believe it or not, one of the graphics guys actually mocked up a golf ball. It had precious little painted dimples in it. It was amazing. We said, no, that indicates a golf resort. That's not the point. I wanted to, you know, what do you call the name of your town? If you drive down into Destin, it says Destin. If you drive into Panama City, it says Panama City. So we're back to that, try to be basic and not be fluffy.
Right. Well, since we're not talking about what the words are as far as stats concerned, I guess that's not the issue. My personal opinion is I'd like to see it somewhere between these two, leaning towards the more subdued one.
I have a question that I ask most applicants when we have a little bit of dialogue and we don't seem to be jumping to an immediate conclusion, and that is, what is the urgency of the project as you see it now?
The time for us to be on the street doing that repair is in the winter.
Yeah, okay.
And we actually started this conversation, I hate to say it, and of course, I'm the first one to follow all the rules. You can ask Tim, he's like, don't bring your checklist again, but we started in March, we started the conversations in March. The TDC sent us through back to South Walton, who said, yes, let's do it. We went back to the TDC. Their process took a number of turns through the system. Finally, the assignment agreement was written. Mr. Davis and the attorney for South Walton and the attorney for Sandestin finally all got together. That took another month. That was executed in July. In August, I made the application, made my 17 color copies, distributed the deal. So we planned way back then to be ready to execute in the fall so that we could, you know, cross the holiday season and be ready for spring again. And then, of course, last month we got continued since we didn't have a quorum here. So we're still just saying, gosh, we got to fit this in and get it done. So it's just been a long road.
This one?
Yes.
Thank you for that response.
I'm looking to see if I have additional versions. We ran so many colors. I only brought a number of things with me, but.
Just a question for the board, is that for people who the boldness is a concern, is it more the Sandestin's logo or is it more the blue top and bottom?
For me, it's the color.
The blue? Yeah, it does really.
Is there a color on the
grid, do you have the grid in your, you should have the grid in your application that marks it. Is there a color on there that we can point out that you would accept and say not to exceed that color?
I'll say this, I don't want anything going toward a teal, aqua, whatever, what did you say it was?
Yes, ma'am.
Turquoise.
It
That
definitely
is not a
skewed,
good
and with the-
direction, I don't think.
And with that really, really pretty blue at Sacred Heart, it was even more apparent.
Kitty, is the sandestin lettering the same blue that's on the rest of it in the thing in the?
It is, but you see how
It looks
different
a
it
lot
looks?
like yeah.
They told me if we did it and got up there and it didn't look exactly the same, that they would string me up to the top and make me go up there every day. Thank you. Unfortunately, we're approving something or a shade based on a printout,
Yeah,
which is
that's
really
challenging.
tough.
TDS is the same color as the sky. I'm trying to, the reason I'm doing this with the paper is I'm trying to avoid my eyes by tricks on. That blue, that blue.
Do you want the hard copies of the grid?
Oh, and there are. That's what this is, in theory, yeah.
Or the
Correct.
correct.
And these, believe it or not, these are the same color. Now, I'm not, again, sure why. You see the effect looks here, light, lighter, darker, lighter. And it's just the way the mock-up, yeah, the copy, or even possibly sun and shade.
The one you have is much closer, it's like something that you gave us.
Oh, okay. So here are the color choices. You see how these are more purple in color? When we choose one of these, it takes that turn for peacock, right, as opposed to the blue. And this is the blue that's at Sacred Heart. That's which color is this one here? Is that this one?
Amazing. And so the other one is one of these?
Correct.
Okay. And so you're saying that all of these in between here would be more of a
These turn, they do, they just turn very, even this peacock in comparison. Yes, ma'am. These have green in them, these have purple in them. And you can tell that it's a whole separate page print.
Yeah,
It shows the names, and it starts to grade them toward green or toward purple. So unfortunately for me, I wish this was flipped, because if toward this way made it more purple, and toward that way made it more green, it would be great.
Right.
If you could fall into that.
Kitty, is the lettering repeated on the logo repeated on the other side of the tower?
Yes, left and right read from east and west. Just two. You can put it across the top if you like. For the no matter what we do, we have a drink at the end of the base of that.
I've been watching this go through the process. Kitty, do you think there's a willingness to do the bottom part, just leave it white?
I think we could certainly do something like that.
I'm just throwing this out.
The foot,
Board to consider.
I mean, the foot,
Yeah.
just kind of keep a little bit of a, I like that. That's actually a good idea,
I like them too.
to stop here. I think it's really,
It just makes it a little less stark. And
I like that a lot. Here it's great. So you'll have a little taste of it, and again, we're looking at it from a visual. If you're down here on the ground, you don't even see this. So you see,
that's true.
definitely, this
You
is
don't
a,
see
yeah, I
the
mean,
top
this
of
is a, there's no way from ground zero looking up to see at least anything within a certain distance from there, but that's brilliant. I like that a lot. Actually, I like it better. You see, you gotta come back 8 miles. He's back.
Trying to help here.
Well, do we have anyone willing to make a motion?
How's everybody feel about, what exactly are we talking about? I was talking about getting rid of all the blue from the bottom part.
That's what I thought you were talking
From
about.
the stem.
I like that idea.
Oh, yeah, from the yellow line down.
Oh, from the yellow line down, I thought it was for the stem.
That's another option. Stem too, you could just stop it at stem. I just think that might a little
That might make it too much more of a ball on top of a post.
What if we left the first one and then just did the Sandestin a little bit darker? Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, what did you do that?
I just kind of think it looks faded.
You think the whole thing does? And if you did
It's so
the
hard to tell.
Sandestin and even the gold part, the bolder one,
Is
the
it-
blue, you're leaving the light of the blue.
Is it reasonable to mimic the yellow line or the blue line, yellow line, blue line, and then nothing else? Does that make sense? So just literally, instead of no blue, just that much. So blue, yellow, white. Blue line, yellow line, white. That makes sense.
Well, we've got a difference. She has the one that's most true colors. Yeah. Followed your thing, I'm sorry. That's what you're kind of talking about. This is the lighter, and then that's the darker.
What do you think?
I mean, I'm starting to think it looks cleaner to just, what Kitty was just saying, have a yellow line and a blue band.
And then the lighter at the bottom.
So the white,
The
the
whole
whole thing's
thing's
white,
white.
the whole thing's white, and you have a blue line, and then a yellow line, Sandestin, and then a yellow line, and then a blue line. Now you're white with just a mention of the two colors above
And
and
everything
below.
else is white? The whole.
Can I do that? Yes, ma'am, please. I'm a pretty good drawer. So, all white, and then yellow, I'm sorry, blue, yellow,
I
blue.
guess I have more of
Blue. So white and the blue line to capture the segment, the yellow line to offset it, and this one.
Now, your problem
like
is
that.
it's a water tower.
It's really clean and simple.
How's this different than it's a Mr. Attorney, I have a question for you. When we are presented with a deviation request, which this is a deviation for color, any other deviation wouldn't be appropriate to consider. That to me, or is it, once you have a deviation in play, are you okay with it?
I think you're okay. I mean, it's advertised as a deviation.
Okay.
Or a deviation from color.
Okay.
If at the hearing, the applicant is willing to make other changes that you guys are fine with, I don't have a problem going forward.
Okay. And the reason I ask is that, and don't take this the wrong way, Katie, but your comment about the Wells Fargo, and I got my brain going too, how is this different than someone coming in and let's say they have the side of a large building saying, well, I want to paint something like Sandestin did on the side of my building? And we would say, well, that's a water tower. But what does that have to do with anything?
Well, are you talking about location versus on-site, or?
I'm talking about a 20-foot long sign painted on a large object. And this is a water tower, yes, but how is this different than painting a 20-foot long sign on the side of the building, which we would not approve? And I'm not saying I'm not inclined to approve it, I just want to make sure that we
Yeah,
approve it the right way.
I'm happy to tell you that. I don't think we would have ever pursued any
Oh,
of
no,
that.
no,
No, but
Yeah.
the homeowners came and said, why is this thing brown and you can't read that green stuff all over it?
Okay, just for my scenario, if I'm trying to think of a large building that's down the street from y'all. Let's say what's that hotel that's in Grand Boulevard?
The residence center in the Marriott.
Yeah, I think the difference is this is not an advertising sign. That would be considered advertising for that.
Well, let's just say they painted Grand Boulevard on.
Well, my personal opinion is, I don't know why we deviated from South Walton, because it's a South Walton water tower, it's not a Sandestin water tower, so.
I guess that's why
You're asking.
I'm kind of trying to make sure that we consider this, it's a unique situation. This is the only water tower I'm aware of in the scenic corridor.
There's the one on.
Well, you have one right here, and it says this.
Oh,
is
you're
South
right,
Walton.
yeah.
And that's an advertisement.
Other than
scale of it, make it unique as well. I mean, you're not gonna have any signs that would be that scale, that large, you know? Allowed in our code.
I think you get the spirit of my question. So what's interesting in this and any other
I
water?
think because it's been previously approved in the location.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's what I had in my head.
So all we're considering is the color. The fact that there's a sign on the tower. This is what I guess my heartburn
Yeah,
is. So we're not considering that, so I don't need to worry about that.
That's right.
Perfect, okay. I feel good about that.
That's, yeah, I feel.
Well, and I
All right.
think the other.
If in the future we decide this is a problem, it's not something that this board took action to approve.
If it weren't a sign, it wouldn't meet the qualifications anyway.
Correct.
Well, that's my point.
Here,
Yeah.
I think because they're hanging flat, single-dimensional letters.
Well, I think the other issue too is that it's not a building, it's a structure. I mean, it's obviously a structure, but it's not a building. It's not, you know, you're not putting Wells Fargo on the side of the building, like in your scenario.
But that's the question I'm taking, but the answer is.
Okay, yeah, and your response is exactly what I was looking for. Even if what I raised is an issue, it's not what we're considering right now. Okay, I feel good about that.
Ron wants to speak.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ron Colbreth, I'm with Bill Wright Signs. I have a couple of items on the agenda tonight. No offense, I'm all for signage, I'm in the sign business, but I'm curious as to why they're allowed to put anything on that structure.
That's
It's basically a billboard.
Yes, sir.
It's a sign, it's a freestanding sign.
Yes, sir. And what I can confidently, given the advice of Mr. Attorney, is that that question is not before this board today.
Right.
The question before us is the color.
It's already there essentially.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's grandfathered in?
I didn't say that. I just said
use that term, but I'm not sure that's entirely accurate.
Right. I don't have a problem with it, I'm just curious, trying to learn.
It does look like an advertisement.
But it's not, it really is a location.
We're splitting hairs, but
We
that's
are.
the difference.
It's
It's a location sign
But
versus.
done to make you comfortable. And again, I was uncomfortable with the larger picture. But what I am comfortable with is the fact that that's not the question before us.
Right, I
If
understand.
it is an advertisement or not an advertisement, it's not what we're considering.
Correct.
So I feel good about that. Okay. So, any further discussion?
One last thing, last for me, not to send this last for you. Kitty, if this is more true to the color, I have a problem with what I'll call candy colors, very primary, bright, you know, red, yellow, green, blue, not that green's primary, but you know what I mean. This looks more toward that to me than this does. I know this is, but another reason I'm bringing this up is because the colors we recently approved for buildings for accent are closer to this than this. Would you guys agree? This is more bright. This is a little more muted, darker, you know, toward those kinds of colors. If you see what I'm saying? They are, but
Okay.
it's just a
So-
difference in the printout. I get it. It's supposed to be the same color, but I'm saying
This
if
is not our color
more,
at all.
if this is more true to life, this concerns me. If this is more true to the color,
This is more true to the color.
that makes me feel better.
It matches the awnings at Sacred Heart and the marble
Okay.
chops as well.
And close to your color in your signs.
Exactly.
Because even this yellow, you see how
No,
it's
no, it's
neonish?
just, it is neonish. It's all
So
bright.
this is, okay, that's just, that gives me comfort, thank you. So where are we? How does everybody feel about the blue stripe versus the blue stem?
I like that better, personally.
Design professionals.
White.
Weigh in, please. I'm relying on our design professionals here.
I like it, when you drew it a little bit round. You meant it straight, right?
Yes.
Of course. Okay, I was just trying to.
Unless I like a baseball.
Yeah, because it looked like a baseball.
Yeah, we don't-
Don't need to my drawing skills.
More, just like this,
Just like
but
that.
just bands instead of blocks of color.
Okay, so,
Yeah. I would like that. I mean, I think that, you know, you might even want to do a little bit more blue than the yellow, so that it's a little bit, you know, your accents is there. But other than that, I think it would look good if it was all white and just.
All white,
stripes.
and 2 bands of 2 colors
Yeah.
above and below. Got it? I agree with that.
Seems to make it less kind of
Yeah,
glaring.
yeah. No, I think it's just a little action that becomes accident. The motion. I came late, so.
I'll make a motion, I'll make a motion to approve with that change, that the blue is the bands instead of the blocks of color, and the rest of it is white.
Did you add the larger, the blue's thicker than the yellow?
Yeah, the blue a little bit thicker than the yellow.
Got it. I'll even send you an email copy to check.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
Tom Lee motioned, Tom seconded. Any further discussion? Any further comments from the audience or staff? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Very exciting.
All right. Okay, next item up is item 16-1602, which is the Fayard Mini Storage Building sign number 1. And staff, we have also, there's on the agenda is Fayard Mini Storage Building sign number 2 and Fayard Mini Storage Monument sign. Are you going to present them all at once? I know we have to have 3 different motions, but
Yeah, I can do that.
is everyone?
Because the 2 building signs are identical in size. They're 5 feet by 20 feet, as well as 100 square feet, which is the maximum allowed under the code. However, this comes back to that long-standing policy that the board's had, as far as if you can see it from 98, it's allowed, because the code allows only the north-facing sign. They're also wanting a west-facing sign, which this has been a policy of the board for a number of years. But I just want to make clear, the north-facing sign is allowed under the code, the west-facing sign is not, but it's been allowed under a policy of the board for the last, I don't know, 12 years or something.
And what is that policy?
If you can see it from 98, which basically is 3 sides of the building, north, west, and east. We did that with retail therapy, we did that with the Copper Grill. Those are the 2 that come to mind right off the top of my head. If you can see it from 98, you can put it up on the building. You can put it on 3 sides of the building. But the code only says, if you're not on a corner, you can have 1 sign. If you're on a corner, you can have 1 sign for each road. So 2 signs on a corner.
But the examples that we have of other buildings that have that, kind of have those tower, I mean, right? The
Retail therapy does, yes.
Retail therapy.
Copper Grill is just a regular building and it's on 3 sides.
I'm concerned about that.
And there may be more, but those are the 2 that come to mind right off the top. The Copper Grill is no longer there, but that building had a sign on the east, north, and west sides of the building. And then the monument sign is meets the standards under 80 square feet and the 35 feet of copy area. 35%, I should say. Copy area.
24 square feet.
Okay. Want to note for the record that Mr. Brad Davis is recusing himself from this item, so does that take care of that?
All he needs to do is announce his refusal, and that's all he's doing.
Very good. And that's for the next 3 items, for these 3 items, okay. Very good. With that,
I'm sorry, there's a form you have to fill out. Ms. Owens will take care of the form.
very good. Okay. Very good. So, staff, any questions before I invite the applicant to make some comments?
Well, just a comment based on what Tim just said. Here's my concern. Most buildings on 98, you can see 3 sides of the building from 98. And if the point and the intent of the code is to minimize the proliferation of signs, this building's a good example. You've got a sign that's visible from 98 in almost any direction. You've got a monument sign with 2 sides that's visible from both directions. It feels like we're going to start or continue maybe a practice that is going to lead to a proliferation over time of just signage that I would get it if there was some reason that the other signs couldn't be seen from the roadway, but that's my only concern. The signage proposed looks good to me. That's my concern.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Keep betting on you, Dave. Do you have any
It's been that day.
comments to address Lee's concern that we...
As I understand it, it is a deviation to allow the sign facing east and west, so you would have to approve. Is that correct?
Well, not specifically, no. The board has had, I think since I've been here in 2005, they haven't done it very often, two that I can think of off the top of my head, but it was a policy, not in the code, a policy of the board. If you can see it from the road, then it's allowed at the discretion of the board. They can say yes, they can say no. And the last time this came up, which was for Mattress Firm, you said no, you didn't allow the west-facing sign. But it's a policy the board said, I'm pretty sure going all the way back to 2005.
But the code says,
You can have one.
so, but they can grant a deviation to allow east and west facing signs.
Yes, but it wasn't advertised that way, and we didn't advertise the previous ones that way either. But yes, they could apply for a deviation, absolutely.
Well, yeah, my take on it is that right now, I mean, as I look at it from the location, right now you probably can see it from all three sides, from 98.
Yes.
But this is an infill kind of lot. They have lots on both sides, and you can build, you know, if they were to build buildings on both sides, then you wouldn't be able to see those two other signs. So I don't see why you would want those signs there, except, you know, for the time being, but.
Well, the applicant is going to explain why they want that west-facing sign.
All right, in that case, good timing. Let's invite the applicant up.
David, I hope I answered the question.
You did. Thank you very much.
Again, I'm Ron Culbreth with Built Right Signs, also representing Mr. John Fayard, the owner and developer of this property. Mr. Fayard is a very civic-minded, community-minded individual, and in that respect, he has included in this facility, which is about a $10 million investment on his behalf, a room much similar to this, a conference room, a community room that he's going to offer for free to nonprofits and other even for-profit organizations that he deems worthy of that purpose. This building is 109,000 square feet. The north elevation is 50 approximately. It has some extensions above the roof line, etc. Is approximately 12,000 square foot facade. Outside of the scenic corridor, and we respect the scenic corridor, and we're all in favor of those guidelines. Outside of the scenic corridor, you allow a business to have 20% of the facade for signage. Okay, so a guy with a little 20 or 40 foot storefront can have a sign 100 square feet. This facade, 12,000 square feet with 100 square foot sign on the front, that's 0.008% of the facade dedicated to signage. That's 1/1000th of a percent. The west elevation is 6,100 square feet, and that sign there at 100 square feet would represent 0.16% of that facade area. That west face, the monument is frankly small. We're going to have 8-inch letters on that monument. The north elevation is a parallel view, what in the business we call a parallel view. The west elevation is our best opportunity to present our name, our brand out there. It's a right-hand read, it's facing the traffic. And so that's our highest visibility opportunity for signage, and that's why that's important to us. And may I ask, why is Mr. Davis recusing himself?
I participated in the landscape architecture portion of the project.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Thought you might have been a competitor in the sign business. And please tell me again, ma'am, what your objection was, that somebody might come on?
Sir, if you don't mind, I believe I'm chairing the meeting, so if you refrain from asking folks questions. I'm glad to direct your questions to me.
Okay. I'm curious as to if she would repeat her comments earlier about somebody building a building next door to it. I mean,
I believe the point was is that there are properties on either side of y'all. If a building is built on an adjacent property that's anything close to the size of your building, the sign that you're just referring to would be obscured. And
And that's a possibility.
yeah,
sure. But I would think that that's the owner's risk.
Well, I think as Mr. Brown explained, the Design Review Board is to consider each of these applications. There is a precedent for allowing signage facing that direction, but I think the one that was most recently considered by this board was rejected. So that's our job, is to consider this particular case and determine whether it makes sense or not.
Again, I would just point out that the percentage of signage that we're asking for is minuscule in comparison to other businesses that we're going to be competing with.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members of the board, do we have any further questions or discussion?
I think that since the building is as large as it is, then it wouldn't be a problem to have the 3 signs. I don't see an issue with it. The building is nice.
My understanding, we have a parallel view, west view, no east view.
Correct, that's right.
Blocks on the east end.
Correct.
Parallel views are so difficult to read when you're driving 55 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
If you're driving the speed limit.
Got that condition on almost every single building on the corridor, I'm just telling you. It's a parallel view to 98 on the front, almost every single building on the corridor. That's what concerns me.
And that's
about this.
the function of the monument sign, obviously, is to mitigate that. I agree with Lee in the general sense that, you know, it's just like an arms race. As one building gets a bigger sign or a second sign or a third sign, then the next applicant, you know, wants that. And I have a great deal of respect for the investment that businessmen and women are making in our community, but one of the reasons that so many folks want to make such large investments in the community is because it's probably the most attractive community on the Gulf Coast, extending beyond Florida, all the way to Texas. And one of the reasons for that is that we struggle over these decisions every time they come before us. So, you know, we got to balance we got to do the right thing to make sure that people keep making $10 million investments in the community, but, you know.
I tend to agree with both Lee and David. You know, one of the reasons why we established a design committee is so that there wouldn't be as much sun rush and we wouldn't be crowded. And like you said, it makes the area look much nicer. And I think where those square footages in terms of, you know, signage, those were, I think you said that they were from another area, not exactly the scenic corridor.
Yes, outside of the scenic corridor, if you use Chapter 7, the regular sign code, you can have 20%.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
With no cap. Like,
right, and that's what
the Boys and Girls Club, right down the street, for example, when that sign came in, I just was curious, I calculated, they could have over a 900 square foot sign, which is larger than a billboard. Of course, they didn't apply for that, and that's not what they got, but that's what the code would allow for.
Right, but I mean, that's why we have this design review board, because that's what makes 98 special. And, you know, and I would like to make 38 that way too. So I just, you know, I wouldn't agree with accepting this very nice.
Not to make this an even more complicated decision, but I will say one thing very positive. The signage is very discreet in terms of its color in relation to the building. And
Well, That was a question I
That's a
had.
good thing.
I'm a little bit confused, like, this looks like white lettering on a brown background, is that accurate?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, because the other sign, the actual sign graphic, I thought said black, but that's fine.
Yeah, initially it was black, and we just decided it wasn't enough contrast.
Okay.
The paint color came out darker than we
Yeah.
anticipated once we saw it on the building.
That's actually a really nice sign.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
nice
beautiful.
sign.
It does say painted black, that's what threw me off on the sign
That's
specs.
right, that's right.
Yeah, so it is white.
Yes.
I mean, I think the sign is well integrated into the building.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and,
The whole thing is incredibly tastefully done, but it's just the principle of it that.
well, it's, yeah,
I tell you-
so many, it becomes Times Square.
Yeah.
at a certain point.
Can I propose, and again, my comments are to support the spirit of Lee's statement. If we can recognize in the record that concern, and then hone in on the specifics of this project, and I'm going to throw a couple things out there. One is, it's a very large building. If this were 3 smaller buildings, 3 different parcels, it would have more signage in the same physical dimension. It would have, 6 or 8 signs in the same area. If it were a retail shopping area, it would have several signs in the area. The fact that this sign is, the colors of the sign, the physical location of the sign is very compatible with the architecture, all of which our code encourages. I'm inclined to support a motion for the approval, recognizing that the next project that comes along, if it's not done, if it's different, if it's a different situation, then it's a different decision. And I apologize if I'm undermining your comments.
I apologize if I'm arguing a little bit, but you could say the same thing about every large building on the corridor, Walmart, Publix. I mean, those could be smaller buildings, and you could have a whole bunch more signs on the front. It just,
Yeah.
and another thing is that when future buildings come up, a different board could be making these decisions, and that's why I think that the code itself and the intent of the code is so important, because through time, you'll have many different people participating in decisions about individual projects, and many different people with many different opinions. So that's, I'm not trying to be difficult about it, that's just kind of the principles that I tend to apply in my mind when I'm thinking through these
It
things.
isn't one of the reasons this board exists, though, to deal with a variance based on the facts of that particular project, whether it's a specific size, a specific color, a relationship of size, a relationship of color, so that we don't have to depend on this, the fixed harness we're strapped into with the code, code every time. I mean, isn't that the purpose of this board?
Yes, we do it all.
And I think what David just said is that we're going to recognize that in this instance, this works. But just because in this instance it works, and I think we specifically say in the code as it relates to the scenic corridor and in the variance application, that we don't establish precedents by actions taken by this board. So whatever has been done in the past, maybe doesn't count, I don't know. But if this works in for this building, and it works for this owner, and it's not offensive, it may be that we should consider it, and also recognize what David has said, is that, we do deal with these issues on a case-by-case, building-by-building basis, not in some generic fashion that we're never going to allow this again regardless.
I mean,
Go ahead, David.
I'm just going to say, I'll give you for example, were Fayard self-storage corporate colors the same as Wells Fargo, I absolutely would be opposed to approval of this. If there was a great big red and yellow sign, with all deference to my friends that go to FSU.
Our bank was Wells Fargo.
Are we approving each sign as it is
That's a three applications, we have to, but in the past, when we've considered I think the presentation of all three signs at once is good. We get this dialogue going, we make a decision, I think the three. But, a big mitigator for me is the fact that the signs are very.
Well, we haven't been presented with what these signs on both sides would look like. Have we, or is it in the package?
Yeah, the way the package presented, there is, I believe, a document that shows the lettering style and describes how the sign itself is made, and then there are architectural drawings.
Sign elevation 1 and sign elevation 2.
Here's another page, it's a whole other attachment.
And it gives you an elevation
Yeah,
to each
it's another
side.
attachment. This is the west.
There's not a picture that shows both in the same rendering.
No.
Right.
But they're
It
separate.
says sign number 1.
Mr. Applicant, wait for just a second.
Okay, so this is the 3, okay. Sorry. That's why I get for being late.
Okay, just while Lourdes is looking at that, so to be clear, sign number 1 is the
North.
the north facing.
Yes, sign number
Okay.
1 is the north face.
Yeah, the packet, sign number 2 that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
the question.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I
Let's
got
get
it
that
backwards.
right.
Yeah.
But I thought I had, number 1 was north, but maybe number 1's west.
Well, the sign number 1 elevation with the first item is
Yeah,
west.
But you have to look at the.
It's west.
Sign number 1 application.
The project number. The project number is associated with the north and the west. Let's see what we got here.
West elevation channel letters is sign number 1.
Okay, so then.
That's what the application says.
Okay, then you're right, I'm wrong.
So, that's the wrong item.
Well, anybody wants to make a motion about sign number 1? Well, I guess,
Yes, you're right, that's right.
yeah, okay. I believe the proper parliamentary procedure is we have a motion and a second, and then we take final comments from the board and comments from the audience. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney? Yes.
So this is the west facing sign that we're.
First sign is sign number 1, which faces west, which is the one I believe we've had some discussion about.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Okay. Sarah's made a motion, Tom has seconded. Any further discussion on the board? Any comments from the audience? Mr. Applicant, did you have a?
In the form of purely unadulterated bribery, you're all.
As the chairman, I'm going to have to
We are presently researching property between Freeport and Defuniak to build a second facility. And certainly, how things go with this would have an effect on that.
I'm taking that first comment to be in jest, Mr.
I know, I just want to hear that. I wish you would have said it. Yeah.
This is not the economic development.
Well,
Absolutely.
Am I too late?
No, we're still.
Okay, I'm just thinking about the whole thing, and I know the code says, what the code says, and my nightmare is, I've seen it in 38 happen with signage, and this is really regulated signage because we want to keep it clean, and we want to keep it beautiful. And I know that this particular building, we changed a lot of things, and they cooperated really well. And I've seen it being built, and it looks nice. And looking at the way the signage is on the west side, I can see your point of view, and to me, it would be why do you want a sign if there's gonna be a building that's gonna come up next to it and it's gonna cover it because it's an infill property?
The property to the west is a landscape covenant. It's been there for a number of years, I believe. I mean, it could change.
It could
sure,
change, it could be sold and changed, and, you know, you could have a
Yes,
building
ma'am.
next to it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm thinking about it.
Thank you.
I'm not so,
And Mr. Attorney, since we have a quorum, a simple majority is, will pass the item, yes.
No, you have to have 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, for deviation? No, it's not deviation.
No.
It's just for in general.
Any
Okay,
motion for this board, you have to have 4.
Four, okay.
No, that's the Board of Adjustment.
It's also the DRB.
Okay.
It's the Board of Adjustment too, it's both.
Okay.
I don't come to this.
Thank you. Do you understand there's 5 of us here?
Yes, we have to.
4 have to vote in favor to pass, okay? All right, well, any further comments? All right, in that case, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
I guess I am too.
Okay, in that case, the motion fails at a vote of 3-2. And Mr. Attorney, do we have to report who voted how?
I think Karen's got it.
Okay.
Karen, nod your head if you have it. Okay.
Okay, so, now, Mr. Attorney, don't go away yet, Mr. Applicant, you've got 2 more items. Just for my understanding, an item that proceeds the way that did is, what is the procedure in the future if it were to come back as a deviation request or something like that? Is there a limit on how?
I think there's a 6-month limit, you have to
Okay.
wait 6 months for it to
Well,
roll.
also, if I could make a suggestion, policies are created by a motion of the board. So if you don't like what's been happening, you can make a motion to not follow that policy any longer, and that you have to apply for a deviation. If you're going to do something other than what the code allows, you have to apply for a deviation. And all you have to do is make a motion to do that. But I mean, this was a policy that this board didn't make, but it's a long-standing policy, so that's why we brought it that way. But if you don't like that, you don't want that, you can scrap the policy by voting that way.
Are you saying that in terms of the policy, that we vote on it and then strictly be bound by the code and nothing else?
Yes, they would have to apply for a deviation, because the last 2 times this came up, with Mattress Firm and with Fayard, we didn't require them to apply for a deviation because this has been a long-standing policy of the board. But if that policy went away, then we're strictly under the code, which says if it's not an allowable sign, you apply for a deviation, and we advertise it as a deviation.
But we would want to advertise and agenda the change in policy.
Yeah.
We just want to.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, well, point's well taken. In the interest of time, let's move along to the next item, which is AR Mini Storage Building Sign number 2. Let's ask the board, do we need any further presentations or discussions, or is everybody ready to go ahead and vote? Okay, in that case, I'll
It's
turn
a
it over.
north face.
This is the north base sign, which is the center of the building.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay,
And I
Tom.
approve.
Okay, Tom made the motion, and Lee seconded.
Lee?
All, yes. Any further discussion? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 1604 is Fayard Mini Storage Building Monument Sign. Do we have any further questions or requests from the board? Okay, in that case, motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Lee, motion approval. Lourdes seconded. Any comments from staff or the audience? Any further comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next item is Forever Vacation Rentals Building Sign. Tim Brown.
Yes, thank you. This is a request for a 30-inch by 168
inch sign for a total of 35 square feet. It's a building sign. It's a small plaza on the north side of 98 with 4 or 5 units in it. And it meets the code. It meets the requirements of the scenic corridor. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
So this is a white PVC backer on black, with black letters.
They're saying aluminum. Originally, they wanted acrylic, and acrylic is the going thing, and we've had this come up previously. It's not an approved material in our code. We don't list acrylic. So they had to pick something else, so they picked aluminum.
I guess it's three-dimensional. Why is this looking so different to me than almost any sign out there, other than non-compliant signs? Is it just that white backing? We don't see much? Am I the only one seeing that?
We don't see white background very often. I think this is going to be on a board behind. There's going to be a board behind it. I can't remember what it's called, but it will be three-dimensional because it will be individual letters. But yeah, I think it just looks funny with that white background. Because a lot of times it's usually like the color of the building or it backs the building. In this case, it's not, it's white.
And it's also framed, so it stands out even more. It says thick, all letters will be applied to a 3/8" thick PVC backboard.
Backboard. Raceway, that's what I was
And
trying
it
to
says
say.
it'll all be 3/8" thick aluminum, so that needs to be required.
Basically, it's a raceway, more or less.
Is it the same size as the sign next to it, the golf sign next to it, or is it going to be, it looks like it'd be just pasted into that photo? Is it going to be more in alignment with that?
Yes, I think it will be in alignment, but it looks like it's actually a bigger sign than that golf. But, well, it looks like part of that golf sign is off the page too. Looks like there's a little piece of another red letter there. I haven't been out there, I don't know exactly what that says, but I think it will be in line with the golf.
Is this to scale?
I think it's to scale, but there's no scale on the drawing, so I'm not sure.
Is there an applicant in the audience? Personally, I think it's a little challenging to evaluate this sign because we have a partial photograph of just the unit in the building. We don't have a photograph of the entire building to evaluate. I'm going from memory, but if this is the building, I think it is. I think there are 2, maybe 3 tenant spaces in the building, and I'm absolutely going from memory. I think this is okay for me to talk about. Oh, sure, yeah.
Across from Seascape, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the right end of the building, or the east end of the building, there's a mattress company.
Yes, but I think all of the other signs look like the golf sign. And so my problem is that the other signs are all, large kind of chubby red letters.
Yeah.
I'm not inclined to approve a sign that's different at one end of the building. To me, that doesn't meet the architectural spirit of the code. So the applicant was here, we could ask that question, but the board's probably getting used to me. It's an awful good candidate for continuation to the next meeting and to try to get more information about how the motion will continue.
When we tell people that if you don't show up, it might get continued to the following month.
Okay, so Tom motioned to continue to do we have a date for the December meeting? December 1st DRB meeting, and I believe Rad seconded. Motion to continue, they discussable?
I think staff just needs to explain why, that we weren't presented enough information to consider the project, because we didn't see what else was going on in that building.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tim. Next item up is Seascape Town Center Master Signage Plan.
I think the law.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a second, that is,
That's what we have here. Seascape Town Center Master.
yeah.
Master signage.
No, number 8 is the Lawson Seacrest Mining sign.
That's all.
That's not on the agenda.
It is.
The agenda, well, nothing makes a difference. The agenda on the website is different. It's missing this item.
This was advertised in.
Perfect. Okay, in that case, Tim, the Lofts at Seacrest Monument sign.
Let me clarify. Here, is this the agenda we're looking at now, or this one was advertised? Just want to make sure.
I believe it was, Mark. I don't know why it's not on Granicus or the website.
We had issues with Granicus.
Yeah.
I didn't, it took me,
I don't have the actual, the folder.
Online, so.
Do you have proof
It
of
was.
publication?
Not here. It's back at the office.
For operating advertised?
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough.
all right. Very good. Tim, the Lofts at Seacrest Monument sign.
Yeah, this is a request for an 8 by 10 for a total of 80 square foot monument sign. If you're not familiar, this is an apartment complex on the south side of 98, out near, I guess its closest thing would be
Rosemary?
It's right next to Rosemary.
Water Sound.
Rosemary, right next
Water
door.
Sound.
It's right next door to Rosemary,
Okay.
just west of it.
So the sign is in compliance with the scenic corridor requirements. So I'll entertain any questions you have. You obviously know more about what it is than I do.
And Tim, the staff recommendation is for the approval?
Well,
Or if you believe it conforms to the
yes,
requirements?
it does conform to the 98 requirements. It is in compliance.
I'm passing around out of the book, the location of it, the monument sign rendering, and the building rendering, so you can compare it to the building.
Okay, so there's two entrances, one sign. This is the sign that's on Red Bud Lane.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, do we have any questions or comments regarding the staff presentation from the board? Yes, again, parliamentary procedure would be, do we have a motion in play before we invite other comment? Do we have an applicant present? Okay. Would y'all like to come make any sort of presentation, or? You don't, there's no obligation to, I think. Okay.
That's all it requires.
Mr. Attorney, I did not know this was going to be on the agenda because I was going from the website, and so I didn't think to recuse myself. I have recused myself as an adjacent property owner for the project on the other side of Rosemary Beach, so I guess, should I pass the gavel?
Let me ask you this, I mean, technically, you don't have to recuse yourself unless you have a direct interest in the project, or this project was somehow inure to yours or your clients or your family's benefit or interest.
I don't believe any of
Pecuniary
this.
benefit or interest.
Yes, understood.
So, that's the standard for recusal. But I tell board members, if you don't feel like you can render a fair and impartial decision for any other reason, recuse yourself.
Okay. In the prior case, there was a reason that I would have a problem. This one, I do not. So.
Okay.
This one is west of the one that's on the corner of 38.
Yes, this is,
Okay.
yeah, it's west of Rosemary, but it directly abuts Rosemary's property. And for y'all's knowledge, I'm the town manager of Rosemary, so the prior project, the town was not necessarily a big fan of, and I was in an awkward position.
That's a perfect example.
Yes.
One should have had one, so.
Is this sign the standard that's within our?
Yes. Yeah.
plaza.
Ground-minded line, yeah.
David, there is another copy right here, Mac's book, if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this. It came by. Yep, I saw it. Thank you very much.
That's where we got it from.
Yep.
Poor Max book.
What are the letters made out of?
TDC Plaza.
I have my observation is purely that, and that is that the address number, I believe, is down very close to the ground. Just knowing how imperfect the ground surface is on 98 in those areas, might want to consider mounting that just a little bit higher up. I guess if there's a convenient place to put it.
That's the design of the day of it. I get lost a lot.
And it looks like the colors match.
Yeah, we're ready to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have the motion to approve by Lee. Seconded by Donna. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Yes, okay. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for sitting through the meeting.
We learned a lot. Y'all made it very interesting.
That's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, I learned about interesting, the word.
Okay, next up is Seascape Town Center Master Signage Plan.
This is an application for the Seacrest Town Center for their master plan. Can't remember when that came through the board, but the board approved that either earlier this year or late last year, the Seacrest Town Center project. But this is the master signage plan is in compliance with the requirements of the master signage plan in the scenic corridor.
Tim, anything further?
No, I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Okay.
Well, that's the only rendering. So we've got blue-green dots are possible internal directional signs. Whatever that thing is, dot is a possible directional sign.
Where are the signs?
Yeah, do we have any renderings of any signs other than the building signs?
No.
So what are we looking at?
And monument, there's monument signs, I
I
guess.
mean, this is beautiful, look, but where those dots look like they're islands.
Well, there's possible locations for internal directional signs.
Yeah, we're not actually approving a sign tonight, we're approving their plan,
They're
so they
planning.
can then go.
And if you read the text, basically what the text says is it'll meet the code. It'll meet the requirements for a building sign, it'll meet the requirements for a monument sign. Now,
So this is like a concept for signs.
yeah, it's a concept for signs, that's right.
Yes, Tim, do you want to, or Matt, do y'all want to describe the whole master signage plan thing?
Well, under the code, if you have 4 or more units, you're required to do a master signage plan. Now, for some reason, Santa Rosa Plaza won't do one, so every sign in that plaza has to come here. But the code says if you have 4 or more, then you have to outline what locations and, like it's showing directional signs, basically what the sign's going to look like the color rendering. You can show the dimensions in a sign graphic. They did it textually, text through text, and then basically it just says, meet the requirements of the Chapter 13 requirements. But I mean, the last one we had, I think they actually showed individual signs with the dimensions. This is what a building sign.
And then the individual shops don't come back to us.
Right.
All the signs get done in the
Our
spirit.
staff approved.
Yeah.
Once they approve the master signage plan, every sign in that development will be staff approved. They don't have to come back to the DRB to get a sign.
So we approve the concept and
Well,
then.
let's approve it.
There we go.
Let's get this thing going.
All right.
The two monument signs are options, it's not two monument signs, right?
Well, you can have a monument sign for every 400 feet of frontage, so as long as they have,
Oh, so option A is one, option B is two.
so as long as they have enough frontage, they can have two or more, depending on the frontage.
Awesome.
Now, I don't, what was the green, I'm sorry, the red dot representative of?
It's a
Directional sign.
Internal?
No. Probably just says you're about to miss it.
Yeah, that's a directional coming into the drive, saying turn here for Seascape Town Center. And then there's the internal directory signs, which would list individual tenants.
Okay, so you can't have the external directional sign. That's why I was wanting to make sure about that. The code requires that you are on both sides of Highway 98 to have one out there directing it into the development.
Okay.
So since this is only on the south side of Highway 98, it's not eligible.
Okay.
But where, I'm confused, where is this? This is not,
This is in Seascape.
but is this 98?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
98.
98's here.
And 98's here, but that's the entrance. This is the entrance.
This is the big main
off
street.
So would this
98.
be considered, does that fall within that category if it's really off of this road?
Well, he's saying if it's directing you into the project, then you can't have it, because under the code, it specifically says you have to be on both sides of 98.
Regardless of what road the sign is on?
Right. So these others are fine, but I just wanted to make the point that, because I was thinking, and I didn't have a chance to look before the meeting, I was thinking they were showing them, because this came up on one of the other developments recently, and they were in the same situation. They were only on one side of Highway 98, so they weren't eligible for that type of a sign. So just that as a caveat, you know, everything else is fine that they presented.
So is it content-driven decision if it said Acme Oyster Bar, Bees Nut House, et cetera, et cetera?
No.
Would that be considered a directory and therefore would be allowed?
Anything directing you from 98 into the project.
But that's not doing that. That's off of 98. That's 100 feet off of 98.
As long as it's internal to the project, you're fine.
Okay, so it
It's
is.
internal within Seascape.
Yeah, well, I misunderstood what he was saying. I thought he was saying, you know, Seascape, turn right, you know, right arrow, Seascape.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is a good, I'm not gonna say 100 feet, it looks like about 50 to 75 feet.
Yeah, it's on
Once you
the
make-
internal access road.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. So it's all fine, it's all fine.
So what's the rectangular, not the circle, but the rectangular yellow and the rectangular or?
Yeah, we're allowed two monument signs.
Okay, those are both monuments.
Yes, we don't, I don't think we're gonna do two, we're kind of all in agreement that one will suffice. And, but we just want to say that's allowable.
I make a motion, we approve this project.
Okay, Brad has made a motion to approve the Seascape
I second.
Town Center master sign. Lourdes has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's all right.
And I guess I'm just thinking about minutes. I guess the minutes should reflect Fayard signs that they were, well, the respective, first one failed on 3-2 with Brad recusing himself, et cetera, et cetera. All right, last item is the board discussion of landscaping and plant materials, which was continued from the, was that October 6th meeting. And we should all have received the list forwarded from staff by Brad.
Yes, essentially, all we are asking you to do is authorize staff to begin the process of amending the plant list to what is attached. It was, Mr. Davis's kind of planning commission meeting to provide that list. That's what they recommended, but we need to actually have you guys recommend this whole process.
The difference between the blue and the red.
I think the red. Now, before I'm going to get this back, one of them was added by the planning commission. Do you remember Mr. Davis?
Planning commission.
Yes, I mean, it's the blue, the plants.
or the red?
And the blue or the plants, I don't know.
If I can see it, I'll be able to tell you.
Oh, yeah, here's a hard copy if you want to.
Red are removed, blue are added.
That's what I got.
Black stays, red goes, blue are your new addition.
Correct.
Yep.
Oh, red is what goes?
Yes.
And the blue is what is added, okay.
And are most of, or all of the reds being removed because they're invasive species?
Correct, or they just don't do it.
Or they don't,
There's no logo.
or they don't do well here?
Yeah.
And Mr. Davis, thank you for doing this.
Yes.
But I think what we need to do is empower staff to be able to tell people you've got more to pick from.
Right. And we just need to start the process to amend the list formally.
Okay.
Part of our code.
Awesome.
Brad from Pairs and Relation? You clearly are not fond of them.
Recusing
Had to do
myself.
it.
I need you to tell me how to get rid of popcorn.
Oh, and you guys make that kind of.
Yeah, don't threaten.
That's right.
Yeah, don't
Right,
threaten.
take care.
That's a problem.
There's somebody locally that will remove them for you for free if you volunteer.
They don't like it.
If you have sex.
I have a question, Brad. Your list does not appear to include the palms. You have some palms in here, but it does not include the palms that I think we had worked on
Needle palm.
previously. We had a whole section on, there was 12 maybe that we,
I didn't touch the palm section is why.
okay.
I don't think there were any changes.
There were no changes to the palms.
Okay, so just to capture what we would forward on would be this list plus the palm section from the existing list. Perfect.
And we should probably, just to avoid confusion, put some kind of legend that says red to be removed, blue to be added.
It's got it in his email, cover email.
Oh, it does?
Yep.
And the
And
black
is
is
that
existing.
gonna get forwarded along? Okay.
Yep.
I'm just thinking the rest of the process would be nice.
I'll make sure.
Ah, okay.
He's removing this paragraph.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Okay, so this motion, if you don't mind me imposing upon you, Mr. Attorney, what would an ideal motion be?
Motion would be to direct staff to begin the process to amend the plant list to what is attached to the agenda, plus the policy.
Yes.
You write the palm.
Anyone wants
I'd like to make a motion to do what you just said.
A second.
You need to hang, she had to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
She's gonna have to get this motion down.
Yep. Very good. So, I'll move forward a second. I guess we can,
You can vote, just make sure when she comes back, she's got the motion and who
okay.
made it and seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. So,
A motion to,
Because it was, Donna made the motion, who seconded it?
Lois.
Donna and Lois.
Okay, do we have any further business to come before us?
Well,
Any old business, any new business?
does the board desire to discuss this policy versus deviation thing on, I personally would feel better if the multi-sided sign thing were a deviation versus, I think it would calm some of my fears of proliferation.
Yeah, I guess I
Yeah, I
have
think
a
I-
question about a policy of a board. I've not ever encountered that.
It's not, it's a policy.
It's probably not really a policy, it's more like previous practice.
Yeah,
Precedence.
Absolutely.
I like the staff, do we have any, Steve Mack? Yeah, what is really say?
Yeah.
And it's not the most well-written.
It was a shocker.
Let me see if I can just get it right back up here.
Look home.
Well, no, I don't like the ordinance in the code. We have to start with the code every time.
Me too, that's
Anyway.
one of the things that.
No, I would hear what Mark, I also have respect for his decision. I'm sorry, Mark. Was that a different guy that was here than when he was with the bricks? Yeah, he tried to take me
I
to
did
that
have a hard
meeting.
time with the Brian.
I did.
I did have a hard time.
I felt like she would have said it.
It was a
It was
threat.
one of the
It was a
Yeah, it was, I was like, that was first.
We have an impartial party over here that is.
I mean, to me, just being hard to say,
When we consider the minutes next month, we can adjust that to say, I'm gonna take my marbles and go home.
You know what, though, but I don't think that would be the sentiment of the actual Mr. Fayard. That was just somebody that was cool, I think. He's not that kind of guy.
Well, he's Mr. Signs.
I understand,
So,
I wouldn't want that sentiment to carry.
No, understood.
But I mean,
Matt, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
Okay, we are ready to hear. Listen.
This is what this section of chapter 13 says. It applies to both type 1 and 2 signs, which is those buildings that are less than 15,000 and those buildings that are greater than. Facade mount, this is the number of signs you can have. Maximum of 1 sign per tenant or individual building, except tenants on the building corners may have 1 per facade within the limits of the storefront.
So
Okay.
within the limits of.
The storefront.
But yeah, so a perfect example is the Seascape Town Center master plan that we just looked at, and there's that. I think I'm ready to open the right one.
If the storefront wraps around the building, then it would suggest that you could have 1 on that facade above the storefront portion of that side of the building.
If the building had 2 storefronts.
So this, like this corner unit.
Or if, yes, in
Yeah.
that location right there. There would be-
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's one single
But if
tenant,
there's only a storefront on one side of the building,
Well, so the Fayard building is a enormous version of that. Now, the sign isn't on the corner, the sign was a bay in. But it is the same.
but it's also not a corner building.
Well,
It's not a
it's
corner
the building.
It is the building.
Right, it is.
And I guess that's what my comment that had to do with if this was 3 tenants,
There is.
they would have been able to do that.
Right.
And the other tenant on the other corner would have been able to do it, and the tenant in the middle would have done it. So there'd be a building the same size. Now,
Oh, well,
this building doesn't have
yeah.
multiple tenants, but a building that same size could have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs if it had 3 tenants. So that's what
Right,
we did.
but when you go by a building, it's so long.
That's
That's what the monument signs are.
I did the math.
Brown. And they're nice and clean and, you know.
So here, I know, should we talk about I have a question about a specific building that has these signs, one on the front.
Why don't we do this, just to make our record clean, why don't we agenda multiple sign buildings discussion for the next meeting? And then that way, the staff can be prepared to tell you what they have done, what's out there.
Okay, so we've had enough input that we all agree that having a discussion of this item on the next agenda is appropriate.
Yes.
And we'll phrase it somehow,
Perfect.
send something.
I'm not
All
sure.
right. In that case,
I make a
anyone
motion
want
to have that discussion on the next.
Where's that girl that's gonna buy the drinks? Let's go.
Do we need to do that as a formal motion? Okay. So we can correct that. Okay, the next motion that I will entertain is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay. Brad motion, Donna seconded. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody,
Good seeing you.
staff, for sticking it out with us.
Bless your heart.
Sydney does a
No,
good
but
job.
I
She's
should have,
pretty
hard
hard.
time saying yes to that sign. Yes, because I thought I was
You had to know which one's gonna go first.
It's particularly if the agenda's light. Yeah.
I mean, I just.